You're listening to the Yoga for Balance podcast. I'm your host, Heather Jurdy, a San Diego-based 500-hour yoga teacher that specializes in Vinyasa and Tantra yoga. In this podcast, I'll be speaking with inspiring individuals to reveal their stories and secrets to living a healthy and balanced life. Subscribe to wherever you get your podcast for weekly episodes on topics ranging from yoga to meditation, spirituality, mindful living, and more. Thank you so much for being here. Namaste. Welcome back to the Yoga for Balance podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed the first 3 episodes of the podcast and that you've been able to subscribe so that you find out when new episodes go live. In this week's episode, I speak with Encinitas-based meditation teacher and Reiki healer, Mariah Slinglerland. Mariah shares her journey from antidepressants to finding peace within through her spiritual practices. She shares what it's like to visit India, especially if you're considering a trip there. She spent years going back and forth to an ashram there where she studies with a guru. She shares her tips to build a transformative spiritual practice. I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have here on this week's episode one of my incredible meditation teachers. I've been practicing with Mariah for a couple of years now, and I'm so humbled and grateful that she's in my life and that she's here today to share some of her wisdom with you. So welcome to the Yoga for Balance podcast, Mariah.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for having me.
So happy that you're here, and I'm so excited to share your lens on the yoga, meditation, spiritual realm with the audience here.
Great, me too. Very excited.
Well, let's take a step back and share with everyone a little bit about what inspired you in the first place. What brought you to yoga and meditation? What was your why?
My why, like most people, we find ourselves in a situation, a moment in our lives where we might feel that we need something else, that it's just not working what we're doing. And mine happened to be a life event that I couldn't find my way out of. And I sought spirituality as a way to bring myself back to who I knew I was. And it was through yoga and meditation that I found myself.
Becoming a student is the first step. So we find that these resources for ourselves, we're seeing that we're benefiting from them. What shifted you into, okay, now I want to start sharing these tools with others?
I think what shifted for me was just realizing what I was sharing with people, that no matter who was standing in front of me, I would have bits of information for them, something that I could help them with. And it became very clear to me that my role to help others was part of where I was going in life. And I knew that my experiences that I grew up in, my experiences that I've had to go through, at some point was very clear that I learned and went through all the things that I went through so I could share with other people how to get out of them, how to bring themselves back to who they are. So it became a very natural transition for me to take on the role of teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love, and like I had mentioned, Mariah's been a teacher of mine for a long time, and I think one thing I really appreciate about your teaching, and even just leading up to the meditations that we would do, how you would find just kind of everyday situations that, you know, that morning you were out for a swim in the ocean and something happened. And so maybe if you could talk a little bit about that, like where do you find those inspirations, or at what moment are you like, this is a lesson?
Well, the lessons come fast and furious when you're a teacher, let me tell you. And there's a moment when you understand that things that happen to us, lessons that we're meant to learn, they happen over and over and over again until we finally get what the lesson is. And so for me, when I would be in the ocean and I would be swimming and I would be doing my practice, the chanting or whatever it was I was doing that day, it became a place where I could get such clarity on all I had to do was ask a simple question. What are we going to talk about in meditation? And the answer would be quite clear because the person next to me would share a problem that they're dealing with. So it became a very recognizable, easily recognizable tool for me to just ask a simple question. What are we going to work on today? And the answer would come.
I think that's a beautiful point, not being afraid to ask for clarity. If you're a teacher, if you're a student coming into your practice, coming into your meditation, not being afraid to, I think we always want to think we have the answer. Our ego wants to think we already have it all figured out. We don't need to ask for any outside help. We can figure it out on our own. And that a friend of mine a few years ago had planted that seed for me. She goes, ask the universe, stop racking your own brain thinking you have the answer, and ask for some guidance, ask for help. And I think that's such a beautiful reminder to anyone listening.
Absolutely. I think the first rule in the spiritual practice is learning the gift of surrender. And it is quite challenging for many people to understand what surrender really is. And it is once you get there and you understand that there's a force greater than us. There's a force greater than us driving and designing our lives just for our soul's purpose, our soul's mission. And when we surrender to that, when we just allow that to be the case, everything starts to flow so much more gracefully.
Yeah, and I think anyone that heard that word passion, I think that could be a trigger word for a lot of people. I know for myself included, really striving to find that passion or to think there's only one answer so what would you say to someone that is in that position right now that's kind of been trying different things and feels exhausted by this seeking of their passion?
Oh, the purpose and the passion. So, I used to ask a lot of the divine this question: what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What is my purpose? And never really getting an answer that I could hold on to that really made sense to me. And what I realized was the purpose for many people, many of us, is to understand and to learn spirituality, to learn spiritual practices. That's our purpose. It's not, oh, your purpose is to go be this, to go do this, to do this. The purpose is to get in touch with your spirit. Spirituality is being in touch with your spirit. So when you get that, and when you understand that your purpose is to get in touch with who you essentially are, what is your true essence, then your passion becomes ignited. And your passion is more about aligning your will with the divine's will for you. So there's this idea like, oh, I'm a yoga instructor. I want a yoga studio. I want a yoga studio. So everything that I've asked for, I've always gotten. And when I was in the middle of the yoga studio, this was like, well, this isn't what I want at all. I mean, it wasn't about teaching yoga. It wasn't about having my own yoga studio. And that was my will. And the divine had another will for me. And so it's learning through meditation, through spiritual practices, how to align the two. My will with divine's will for me. And when you align those, everything becomes very clear.
What's your advice to someone starting down this path?
All right. So my advice would be the purpose of yoga, the purpose of the asanas, to practice the yoga poses. The purpose of that is really to prepare the physical body for meditation. That is one of the steps in the 8 limbs of yoga, is to practice the asanas, to practice the breathing, to bring yourselves into a clearer meditation. So whether your practice of the moving the physical body is swimming in the ocean, is running, is going for a nice walk in nature, I believe that just moving the physical body helps you move energy, because that's really what it is. It's all about moving the energy. So you move the energy and then you sit in meditation.
How would you start a meditation practice?
So after moving the physical body, then I would go to a space that you can have a space outside. You can have many different spaces. The one thing about meditation and a space is that when you meditate in the same space over and over again, it becomes a place to receive divine energy. So if you can stay in one place, it's more beneficial. Doesn't mean that I stay in the same place every day, but I do come to my altar every day. And an altar could be, it could be set up for whatever speaks to you. So it's about having these little treasures that you found along your way, something that's really meaning for you, carving out the space, and then making the conscious effort and taking the action to actually sit there every day. And then the meditation practice could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you feel like you're ready for.
And what are different styles of meditation?
There are so many ways to meditate, and everyone has their favorite. Mm-hmm. And it's really deciding and looking for what speaks to you, what moves you, what gets you excited about getting into that space the next day. So I've always started with guided meditation. I love that we give ourselves some sort of direction, because we have this thing, especially when we're beginning, this little thing I like to call the monkey mind, and it will keep us from sitting, really, and it will tell us all these different things like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you don't have time, you're thinking about your grocery list when you're supposed to be meditating, you're worrying about dinner, you're worrying about the kids. So having a guided meditation was one way that you could really follow along to what a teacher or what a guide was suggesting to you to do, and it would actually help you to control that monkey mind. So there's this beautiful guided meditation. For my personal practice, my meditation is all about chanting, and I will spend an hour, 2 hours, whatever is needed to chant.
Can you talk about chanting a little bit? I mean, I think a lot of people listening have probably heard an Om in their yoga class, or maybe even participated in one. So yeah, let's talk about chanting.
Okay, so chanting is one of my favorite subjects now to talk about. It's so beautiful because our words are words in the English dictionary or whatever language you speak. Our words, they speak to the physical body. So as I'm sitting here, my physical self, Mariah, is speaking to Heather's physical self as a body. And the one thing about chanting is it speaks to the soul. Chanting is the original seed sound, the original sounds of all of creation. So when we go to chanting, when we learn chanting, we're speaking to our soul. We're calling the divine self within us to awaken. And it's through chanting.
Where would someone, if they wanted to try to learn, are there resources out there?
Oh, there's many websites. If you just Googled chanting, you could find many different chants, and each one will call a different characteristic. So if you're wanting to chant for surrender, Om Namo Narayani, which is I bow, I surrender to the divine in however I define it. And Om Dom Durgae Namaha, Durga, she brings courage, she removes negativity. And there's one for Ganesha. Ganesha is the Hindu god with the elephant head. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. So if you want to remove obstacles out of your path, there is Om Namo Shivaya. And Om Namo Shivaya calls that consciousness into us. Shiva, which is actually my spiritual name, Shivani, it brings the consciousness into you.
And I'd like to touch on what you just brought up, your spiritual name. So how did you go about getting a spiritual name? Tell us about that path.
So my first name was Uma Devi. And the Uma Devi meant the love a mother has for a child. And the whole reason for me getting on to this spiritual path was that my son had actually left my house, and I couldn't cope with the pain that caused me. And so it was on a trek through the Himalayas when I sat in this cave.
I love everything about what you just said.
And I was sitting in this cave, and I hiked up into this cave, and I was sitting there, and I had received this message that you enter in as Uma Devi, but you come out as somebody new. Like I had learned the lesson of why I had lost my son. So after I left the Himalayas, I flew down to my guru's ashram in India, and I had asked my guru about that, and so my guru changed my name to Shivani, and Shiva is the god of yoga and meditation and healing, and Shiva is also known as the destroyer of illusions. So that's a spiritual name.
That is beautiful. And you talked about your guru a little bit. So let's talk about, and you've gone to India several times now. So yeah, I would love to hear about your experiences in India and what's driven you, and kind of explain what practicing with a guru, having a guru would be to someone who's not familiar.
So having a guru, when you find that special relationship with the guru, it's actually one of the biggest blessings that I've ever received. Not really understanding in the beginning what it was going to bring to my life or how it was going to change my life. But having that special relationship with an enlightened being, an avatar, however you want to describe it. I love to sit in front of my guru and understand that is God sitting in front of me in a body. And it's somebody that I can talk to, and it's somebody that I can ask questions of, and it's somebody that I can connect with in meditation here at home. And I have been to India. I just got back from my 6th trip, and that's in 2 years. So I'm going about 3 times a year. And it is out of all the places that I've been in the world, it is one of those places where you get shown and you really begin to understand how our consciousness, our thoughts, our mind really become our reality. It really is just shown to you in a microsecond, and you begin to understand, oh, this is where my head is. This is what I'm experiencing. I need to change my thought patterns in order to change what I see, what I want to become, what I want to do in the world.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's very powerful.
So, someone who, if they've thought of going to India, but it's, me personally, I have not been to India yet. I've heard of Vipassana and how powerful silent meditation retreats are. What would you say, how would you say to approach someone's first time going?
So if you wanted to go to India, take, for example, my last trip. I brought 4 people with me. 3 of the people that I brought had been doing a practice, had been really doing a practice with me. We were doing practice together. So we were really prepared for when we got there. And then I actually had one person kind of come on at the last minute. And I got to see the difference between being prepared for a trip to India versus just going because you want to go sightseeing or you want to go see the world. And what I bring or where I go is very purposeful. To watch the people change right before your eyes and to experience exactly what their passion is and how to bring the energy for what it is they want to create in the world. It is the most magnificent, powerful, life-changing thing I've ever witnessed.
Okay, gotta book my ticket. And this is how we met, through guided corporate meditations. So why don't we talk a little bit about that? I think that was the first time I had ever encountered a company actually offering this. And I think it's such a beautiful thing. So why don't, if people have never heard of that, explain what it is you do working with employees for their health and wellness.
So it's so powerful. Meditation can be so powerful for people when you're in the space where, if you were the corporation and you were looking to have a healthy workspace, if you were looking to have everyone being of clear mind, if you were looking to have people be overall generally happy to be there at work and to be productive, this is what you would want to bring. On the other side, as an employee, I've watched the employees come to class and the things that they begin to understand or to know about why it is that things happen a certain way for them, or what it is that they're really experiencing and what is the lesson behind it. It is actually priceless when you take the time to come to class and to receive and just get centered. And one of my first classes, and this is something that my husband used to say to me all the time, is this term, leave it at the door. Leave it at the door. So when you walk into the office, you are theirs. And when you leave that office, you are yours. So there's this whole idea of leave it at the door. And if you can teach your employees that you value them and that you want to offer this to them, it's transformational for the employees to have this. And then on the other side, on the flip side, the employees would go back to work. I mean, we had the people that were coming to corporate meditation, we had a 90% rate of people getting promotions that took advantage of the classes. They were being rewarded for the way they excelled at their job. So there was a lot of positivity on both sides.
And I think one powerful thing about that is it's making meditation this community thing, this gathering within that organization. It's kind of creating this micro community of like-minded people that are all of a sudden a little more in tune with what's going on in one another's life. So I'd love, from your perspective, seeing that, compared to, let's say, starting a home meditation practice. If you're in your own bubble, you're doing your practice, yes, but I think there's this whole different aspect now when you're bringing it to a group.
Well, there's an energy in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's an energy in it, and I love this energy, or these people that come in and they'll say, okay, one person meditating or one person saying prayers, one person can affect 10,000, two people 20,000, and there's these numbers out there. And so if one person comes to class and they come back to their desk and they radiate out their peace or their clarity or whatever it is that they experience, it's the energy of it that shifts. So I'm sure that all of your listeners here today have experienced walking into a room or somebody walking by and going, whoa, they're having a really difficult day. Well, you're picking up on their energy. You're able to pick up on that energy. So the same as that, if you bring it into the workplace, you have 10 people being productive, one person in the group could really bring the energy down because they're having a rough day. So it's that same mentality. It's bringing the energy of meditation and what it has to offer into the workplace that's so valuable.
I think one powerful thing that I love about your teaching, and you've even touched on this in these last couple of answers, is talking about the learnings from it as well, because I think there can be some really incredible things that come up when we're going down these paths and trying out different meditations, especially when you are focusing on a topic. I think that's one great thing about being able to seek out a specific meditation or chant, that if there is something specific you're working on, great, you can really get focused in and, focus on that topic. But another thing with this group setting, to your point, is kind of having this afterward talk, even before and after. So it's sharing with one another, oh, this was an aha moment for me. This was a light bulb for me. And I was always amazed, after we'd finish, how we had 10 completely different experiences of this same guided meditation.
It's really a beautiful thing. And it's understanding, and it's starting to show up as everyone, we all experience things differently. We all have a different way of explaining something. We all have a different way of seeing something, and it's just based on our level of consciousness, basically. It's our level of awareness that we have about certain things. So I love my guru says that just because you don't believe something does not mean it's not true. It's just not true for you yet. So when we don't understand something, that it might be true. It's just not true for us yet because we don't have the understanding. We don't have the knowledge yet. So in becoming this teacher is like, first you have to be the student and you have to learn the lessons. And when you begin to learn the lessons, you start switching into the role of teacher. And when you live by everything that you teach, you become the guru. You become the wisdom.
That is so beautiful. Thank you. Do you have a 10-minute tip anyone listening can try at home today to start finding more balance?
My tip for you is to love yourself enough to want to change the way that your life is running. That when you find a practice and you go to a practice each and every day, the peace that it brings to your life is absolutely, undeniably priceless. And there is nothing like it. Back in 2006, I was I was unrecognizable. If I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize the image that was reflecting back to me. I was on antidepressants. I was on, things to help me sleep. And I just accepted that that was the way my life was going to be until I couldn't. And I wanted to find something else that worked. And having a practice that I can go to every day has really changed the way that I experience life.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And what does balance look like to you? If you have a really balanced, good day, you're feeling great, or a great moment, what does that look like?
Balance to me looks like a smile that you can't wipe off your face. Balance to me is this peace and this quietness in the mind. There's nothing to figure out. There's nothing to do. You're just in this blissful moment. And you just are. You understand that there's this deeper part of you that is right there, waiting to be connected with you, waiting to be discovered. And when you discover that guru is within you, that inner voice, the divine, exists within you, everything changes.
So beautifully said. Is there anything else you wish our listeners would know or that you'd like to share?
There are a few bits of wisdom I picked up along the way, and it's funny how it's interesting to me how everything in my world is so symbolic. So I'll share with you, your body, your physical body believes everything that you tell it. So if you go around telling your story about how broken you are, that is exactly what you'll be. Stop and smell the roses really means stop and smell the roses. Rose is actually one of the highest vibrational scents there are. So stop and smell the roses once in a while. Get out in nature and see all that it has to offer you. See how it actually affects your energy. That bit of wisdom of leave it at the door. It really will serve you, and it will serve everyone around you. If you could leave your worries and your stresses at the door. When you enter into your sacred space, have that be your sacred space. When you enter back into your home, leave your work trouble at work. When you enter into work, leave your home trouble at home. Just be where you are in that moment. Those are my little bits of wisdom. And meditate every day because it will change your life.
It will.
Because it will change. Meditation changes your awareness. It actually changes your energy. It shifts your frequency. Meditation, when done in certain ways, can really shift your energy body, and that shifts your emotional body, that shifts your mental body, that gets your mind and your body and your spirit all connected.
What are certain ways that meditation maybe wouldn't be so helpful? Or what kind of common mistakes do you think people could be making to not see those breakthroughs and make the connections?
When you overthink it. I think overthinking meditation, I think we make it really complicated, and it's not meant to be complicated. It's not about emptying your mind. It's about becoming aware of what comes up for you when you're actually sitting quiet. It's knowing that you need to get quiet enough to hear the answers, to listen to what you're actually being shown, to see what you're supposed to see, what you're meant to see, what's right there in front of you. And I think when you overcomplicate it by different techniques that aren't really working for you, then I think that can just cause a lot more stress. And that's why so many people say it doesn't work for them. And really, it works for everybody.
I work really well with structure. I like creativity within structure. I find that's best. I like a little guidance, a little something holding me accountable. And so every morning, waking up, that's one of the first things I do. And this morning, one of the cards I pulled from Gabby Bernstein's deck, The Universe Has Your Back, was the key to prayer is to forget what you think you need. So often I think we show up and our ego says we need the answer to this, or we think we know what the answer is already, and we come in with these preconceived notions and we bring that all to the table, and then we're stuck in the ego. So I think removing that, forgetting what you even thought you needed in the first place, sit and see what comes up.
That's a beautiful point, and that's one thing that I learned having a guru is that we think that we need all these things, and we think that we're like, oh, well, I set an intention, and my intention was to have this and to have that and to have this and to have that. And it's not necessarily what we need. And so having a guru, it provides you what you need. It might not be what you expect. It might not be what you want, but it is exactly what you need. And so having the practice of just letting that idea go is the most profound thing. It's really letting go of the need of it needs to look like this. I need to have this, because we can read all these books and we can listen to all these podcasts, and there's absolute endless amounts of knowledge in all of these informational ways that we can experience this information, all these informational tools. And so it's taking what you've heard and it's implementing it in your life. And when you have the experience with a certain meditation, when you have the experience with yoga or a yoga pose, that's what provides you the wisdom. And the wisdom is just like the light, as darkness is just like the ego. Or ignorance.
Ooh, thank you. Where can our listeners find you?
So I am on Instagram at Healing Mariah. My website is healingmariah.com, and Facebook, I also have Healing Mariah business account.
Awesome. Thank you. Definitely check out Mariah's amazing work online, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you all to the listeners who have taken the time to actually listen to what you're trying to bring to the world. So blessings for that.
And thank you for the healing that you're bringing to corporate America, to everyone that you meet and encounter and that has the pleasure of practicing with you. I myself have been so profoundly impacted by your teaching and your guidance, and I just thank you for the beautiful work that you're doing in the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mariah, and thank you at home for listening. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Yoga for Balance podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and help us grow by leaving a review while you're there. Thank you so much, and until next time.